Hi everyone, welcome back to Brookdale Farm. Well, today we're out burning stubble. This is not a job that I particularly like having to do, and there's a number of reasons that I don't like having to do it. This stubble here contains a fair bit of nutrient and organic carbon that I really do prefer letting it break down and go back into the soil. But when we're cropping straight over the top of a crop from last year, we need to get rid of it. There's a few reasons that we need to get rid of it. One of the reasons for burning stubble was when we were using the old seeders like this one here, they had very little clearance underneath. This one's sort of sunken into the ground right at the moment. But so there's 2 rows of tines in the middle there for seeding with, but it also had a row at the front and back that were cultivating tines. So the seeding tines are 4 inches apart, 100 mils, but with all the other ones in there was a tine every 2 inches. And when you went through thick stubble with these, they would just block up. And if you weren't watching carefully, it was a cold rainy night that you were out seeding, you'd get so much packed under there that you could just about lift the machine off the ground. And then it was hours of work to try and dig everything out. You could lift it, you could back it up, but if you got too much caught under there, you couldn't even back it up. It was that blocked up. And you didn't need much stubble in the paddocks for these machines to just completely block up. If we come around the back here and have a look through here, you can see how close all the tines are together in there. And it is sitting lower than it should be. This is as far down into the ground as it goes, but yeah, they just blocked up really quickly with even a small amount of stubble. The other reasons that we need to get rid of it revolve a lot around chemical usage. So with certain chemicals, particularly things like trifluorine, where you're putting a blanket down on top of the soil that you want in contact and incorporated into the soil, anywhere that touches stubble or the header trails or anything but bare ground, that gets completely neutralized. So you've just wasted that chemical. It doesn't do what you're putting it down for, and this can give you resistance, weed resistance to it, because your rate has been so low, effectively so low, but it also costs you money. The other reason that we need to, or that a lot of people burn their stubble, is that to break this organic matter down in the soil takes an awful lot of nitrogen to feed the soil bacteria that are breaking it down. So if we leave it here and plough it in, it's great for building up soil carbon levels, but you need to dramatically increase the amount of nitrogen that you put on your crop to get the same result. Now, I would much rather plough it back in and put the just add a little bit more nitrogen. So the reason that we are burning it is, particularly in the header trails here, you get an awful lot of weed seed. This paddock has bad weed, very bad radish and a lot of ryegrass in it. So we're gradually getting that more under control, but without burning the stubble, we just can't manage to get it under control. When they're planting the modern GM canolas, they tend not to worry about stubble so much because you can go through and spray with Roundup once it comes up. and there's no chemical they put down first. But you can see in this paddock here, which has been seeded, just over there, there's a great big trash up. Even with the big modern machines with high clearance and wide spacings on the tines, they do still run into issues when you get stubble that is this thick. So to make sure that we do this safely, we always have a fire unit with us in the paddock next to us. We want a nice light breeze. Now, one of the issues today is that we've got a slightly gusty breeze and it keeps changing direction. When I checked it 10 minutes ago, it was coming from over that way. So it would have been blowing the fire up to this corner. Now, if we just pick up a bit of dust, it's now going that way. So where do we want to start burning? We've got a reasonable fire break all the way around here, but with a bit of a wind behind us, behind the fire, it will easily jump that and head off into the neighbour's place there. So one of your best ways to get a better fire break is to burn one. So because the wind at the moment is going that way, we're going to go down and start burning on that far side of the paddock down there. I think that's also where the worst little bit of fire break is, so we will need to keep an eye on that and just burn it very carefully. Okay, so we're down in the other corner of the paddock now, but the wind is just changing all the time. So we're going to have to be really careful and watch which way it's coming from in case we need to go and do a burn up the other end of the paddock to create a fire break up there. Now, depending on how strong your wind is and how good your fire breaks are, you want to start with a burn fairly close to the edge. Normally I make that the first header trail, and that will get a fire going that's going to burn that way slowly and up to the edge of our stubble reasonably quickly. And then we need to watch it and make sure that it goes out on the fire break and doesn't carry any further. But that gives us a reasonably wide fire break here. Now, I've borrowed a Firebug lighter to do this today. This has a stone up the top here. It's a pumice stone that absorbs a bit of the fuel. It's got a little nozzle here that pours fuel out onto the stone. There's a tap down here and a breather here that we use to control how much fuel's coming out. Now, these you fill with a mixture of 25% petrol, 75% diesel. A lot of people put a little bit more petrol in than that, but if you haven't used one before and you don't know what you're doing, make sure you mix it to the instructions. It's written on the top here. If you don't have one of these, what I usually use is a piece of steel pipe. Don't use copper because it will burn you. With a rag stuffed tight in the end, and I'm talking piece of 3/4 inch pipe. An old tent pole works quite well, and about 1 metre long. Stuff the rag in really tight as you can with a bit sticking out, and fill the pipe with the same mixture. Wait for it to soak through the rag. If it is dripping out too fast, throw a handful of sand in the end of the pipe. This helps to slow it down, and that makes a really good, very cheap lighter. So the wind has swung around again a little bit while I've been talking. It's now going more that way than anything, but it keeps coming back to this corner. So we are going to start lighting up a line along here, and I'll work my way down through the paddock. Often I do this with a quad bike, but we've only got a small paddock here today, so I'm just going to do this on foot. saves me bringing the ute and a trailer and the fire unit with a trailer with the quad bike and a fire unit over as well. So to light these up, if we throw a little bit of fuel on the ground and on the wick, you can see it coming out there, and carefully light that up, and we should then be able to light the end up. And I'm just going to take a bit of a walk and just start lighting up along this header trail. And it gets going quite fast once you light it up. Normally I'm also carrying a green leafy branch with me. This makes a great thing for putting out small little bits of fire if it just starts burning across the fire break a bit fast or anything like that. Now we want to watch that bit up the end burns out reasonably quickly where it is, or we're just going to go and put that out before it gets any further. That's going out, so we're just going to continue lighting up along this line now. Okay, so we've burnt the outside header row and it's pretty much burnt its way out. Now, because the wind is swinging around so much at the moment, this still isn't a good enough fire break. Now, we actually started burning up there because the wind was going that way. Now you can see all the smoke's coming down this way. So what we're going to do is come in to the next header row and we're going to burn down this one. This gives us 2 header widths, and by that point then we can start making our way across the paddock. So I did burn, because the wind had been going that way, I walked all the way around and lit up that side, but you can see that fire's running pretty well now. So I'm just going to get this next one done round here so that we've got a double width fire break, and hopefully some of this stubble in between will start burning too. Okay, once we've got a good fire break burnt, we can come into the paddock a little bit, about 50 metres or so, and just walk a line down through the middle. As soon as the wind comes up though, this fire runs really fast. So make sure you have an extremely good fire break down the far end. We've done three widths, 3 harvester widths into the paddock, and now we're just going to do a bit of a run down through the middle here. The wind is still swinging around an awful lot, so I've actually burnt 3 harvester widths round almost 3 sides of the paddock now, to give me a good fire break on 3 different sides, because of how changeable the wind is. see how fast this fire is running, and it will jump quite a wide area with a bit of wind behind it. The wind today is not particularly strong, but this, as soon as we get a gust, this fire starts running at probably 5 k's an hour. And that can be really hard to keep up with in any fire unit while you're trying to put it out. In summer, when the crop is really dry and you get a fire at harvest time, you've got an awful lot more stalk. Everything is a lot drier and there's a huge amount of energy in the grain. You can imagine, you can see how fast it's running at the moment. You can imagine how fast and how hot it burns during harvest. It's really not something you ever want to get too close to. It does end up being so hot that it makes it hard to get in close enough to put it out. I also need to just quietly burn around a couple of the trees in the paddock. I don't want to burn these trees and kill them. This particular tree here is called Hunter's tree. It's named after my cousin, who, when learning to drive my car out in the paddock when she was a teenager, was very proud that she learnt to do an emergency stop and not run into this tree. There is a little bit of space around it, but anyway, this tree will forevermore will be known as Hunter's tree. It's not looking real good at the moment. It struggles out here in the middle of the paddock by itself. It really needs a couple of trees put in around it. So we got a reasonable burn. There's a few bits that sort of didn't burn completely, but they'll be all right. They're thin enough that it's not going to affect us too much. Now we're hoping to be seeding here in another fortnight or so, but we cannot seed into this ground yet. So we burnt the stubble because we wanted to stop the stubble from neutralizing the chemical when we put it on. But the ash, the carbon in the charcoal will also neutralize the chemical. This is one of the things that they actually use in the chemical masks, is a charcoal filter. So this will break down any of the chemical that touches this. So what we need now is a really good rain to wash in all of the ash and the charcoal into the soil, and then we'll be right to go. At the moment it's far too dry to seed anyway. We can see we've got some clouds over there, and there's a little bit of rain falling in the distance. We had some forecast for yesterday and the day before, and that turned into not much more than a heavy dew. So it's still very dry here. We don't have anything forecast this week, but hopefully next week we'll get something and we can get stuck into seeding. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video. Thanks very much for watching, and I hope to see you again next time. Bye.